So, not long ago, I took an Uber, which I know is not like the most interesting, but I'm always a little fascinated when the Uber has one of those like iPads, the little tablets where there's like games.
Little
Because
sensory stuff for you.
oh yeah, yeah. Now I never use them. I never use them. Partially because I'm just not like, partially because I wouldn't get much out of it, but also because it does feel like food in a hotel fridge, where it's like the second you touch it, you're fucked. They charge you like $1 billion more. But I just watched the options like float by, like kind of loop and screensaver around, and I'm just gonna tell you what I saw. I'm just gonna tell you the options that were presented to me. I just took pictures of each slide as it came by. So I'm going to say, so someone is being entertained in an Uber on any given day by the following topics. Where'd they go? Hold on. Your options are a little button with a light bulb that says classic trivia, a game with a donut that says catch the donut, a game called Wizard Quiz, has a lightning bolt on it, a QR code to donate to Red Cross, American Red Cross, a slide of football scores, a button that says animated short and there's a little sock puppet on it, a button that says surprise me, which makes me nervous, a picture of what I assume is Mount Fuji and the words Japan facts, a car that looks like it is has a gas, like it's receiving gas at a gas station, and the words did you know, um button called fortune cookie, an animated loop of basketballs being thrown into a basketball hoop, and the prompt says count the basketballs. A picture of a fried egg with the prompt breakfast around the world. A button with a little Italian villa that says discover Italy. Button for the morning brew weekend update. Red Bull TV, your travel horoscope, and a picture of a pencil that says guess the doodle.
I'm guessing you were all over the fucking Italy facts.
No, no, it was Discover Italy, so I guess that's just like a Christopher Columbus simulator.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I'm like really concerned that there's anything called Red Bull TV out there.
Yeah.
It's
It's
probably
just
like a new.
See
TV
it
of
on there.
people drinking Red Bull.
It's like the new Spike TV. It's like TV stuff that guys like.
It could be the Fetch Prince like milk commercial, but just with Red Bull instead.
Uh, 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 it's legal. I'm drinking Sprite Zero at the moment. That's what's legal, bitches.
It shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be.
Bright cranberry.
Sprite Cranberry.
Select your character.
Rev up those fryers and fill your champagne glasses to the very tippy top. I'm Tommy, and you're listening to West Coast Toast and Roast, starring Willow, Dav, and yours truly.
Get ready for the next battle.
Welcome back to a new year of West Coast Toast and Roast. I'm represented by an adorable new drawing by dear friend of the show, Jay, as are all of my co-hosts here. So I revamped the look of the podcast a little, of the HUD that you listen with, and I'm Tommy.
And I am finally trying to do some fucking voice training this year, and I'm Will.
And I'm also represented by a wonderful avatar. As you can see, it's saying my classic catchphrase. You guys know how I'm always talking about like how I'm diabetic. So I've been told, I haven't seen the drawing yet, but I have been told that in the drawing I am saying my classic catchphrase, I have diabetes. And I'm
Probably
dead.
saying one of your classic catchphrases.
Probably something along those lines at least.
Something to that effect. Well, it's a new year. Uh, it is my deep regret that I'd say a truly great film flew under the radar that none of us got to watch before we recorded the Toasties. I think it could have cleaned up some awards. One of us gave it a 9. We loved it that much. It is, a rookie darling of 2024, and that film is, of course, Amelia Perez. We're going to talk about Amelia Perez. Oh no! For number one, I was kidding, but number two, I almost skipped trailer Life or Death.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, sorry. I was just so excited to talk about Amelia Perez, everyone's favorite movie.
Man to woman, or woman to man.
Man
Penis
to
vagina.
woman.
Penis to vagina.
Yeah, guys,
Oh,
I'm starting to think that movie might not be the best representation of trans people.
Well, I was like the typical trans ally in that I was like so excited to show. I was like, oh, people love this movie, and like Willow might see some of herself in it, and then like it actually hits Netflix, and everyone's like, this is the most transphobic thing I've ever seen. I was like,
Yeah.
oh. The lesson of that story is watch The People's Joker.
Big agree. Big agree.
Yeah,
People's Joker, I Saw the TV Glow, if you want like actually like not dog shit trans rep.
Yeah. So I sent you a few trailers. I remember having there was a lot of movie trailers this month. I had a hard time picking which one to send over. I believe I settled on Opus. Is that correct?
That is the movie trailer. Yeah.
Yes. I could have sent Drop. I could have sent Hard Eyes. I could have sent A Working Man. I could have sent Alto Nights, which is the movie where Robert De Niro does the clumps. But I decided to go with just good old fashioned, a new the menu like Opus. It is starring Io Debris, who you all know how I feel. I adore her. She is sent to a commune, asterisk, something to that effect, owned by a long disappeared pop star who's gonna like do something fucked up for his, the opus of his career, and a bunch of Hollywood elites are there, and it's kind of just every year we get a new the menu, and sometimes it's a pretty good the menu. I think the menus we got last year were like Blink Twice, and might be something else in there. I didn't think that was like as great. I could see this swinging upward. I think Io brings like a lot of charm. I'm really interested in John Malkovich as this like aging pop star character. I kind of wonder what that'll be aping, if this is like a Jared Leto thing or like a Timberlake thing. I don't know, but I'll give it life. I'm definitely going to see it. I do wonder if the mileage is going to run out on scary rich people eat the rich movies, but I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a shot. Life from me.
I'll give it a life. I think it looks really cool. I don't know, it just seems like a very I think the menu movies of the past few years have been a bit hit or miss. I think all of them have been like pretty decent, but at the same time I haven't loved any of them. I feel like this one I'm gonna love. I think it looks super cool.
There is that music element that I feel like you could that I feel like you in particular kind of can sink your teeth into.
Well, and if you know me, I'm into like really like classic oldies music, and so I think just the concept has me really excited. So it's a life for me.
Right.
It's got Io Debris and weird shit's happening, so it's a life for me.
Hey, Io Hive, we're into it. Next we've got Big Helmet Heroes. This seems like an indie spiritual successor to Castle Crashers. Even though it's not by like a big studio, it seems to have it looks kind of good. It has pretty good budget. It has pretty good full CG cutscenes. Again, a month with like a lot of trailers, but a lot of them could be truncated into like this has to do with the Xbox Showcase, Game Awards, so on. So I tried to find something kind of out of left field. This is coming out next month. Just like a 3D beat 'em up. Looks pretty straightforward. Nothing too fancy. If it's reasonably priced, I'll probably give it a shot. So it's a life from me. We're at that kind of like the no, actually, this year, this like the early months last year were really, really empty. We're pretty stacked this year. We're getting new Doom, Split Fiction, Fatal Fury. So I'm usually like scraping for indie games just to have something new to play. And I could see this like maybe falling by the wayside, but like I like a 3D beat 'em up. I think it looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I give it a light life because I've never played Castle Crashers, but it looks fun. Um, yeah, I guess it does just kind of depend if the gameplay loop is, as rewarding as, other games where you do have to do like a lot of grinding, a lot of killing enemies. So it's a light life, but a bit cautious.
Fair.
I gotta be real. It's not really grabbing me. I haven't played too much of Castle Crashers, but for as much as I appreciate that kind of vibe, it's just not really standing out when there's, I think, just a ton of great stuff that's going to be coming out this year. I'm sure it'll be fun to a lot of people, but it's just really not for me, so I'll give it a death.
That's
I think
fair.
that's
It
fair.
strikes.
Yeah.
I think it'll be the kind of game that, like, when you're drunk with some buddies, it'll go hard, but it maybe isn't
Mhm.
have much all that much mileage all by yourself. That takes us to our TV trailer, which I'm super fucking pumped about. On the flip side, this is Common Side Effects, a new Adult Swim animated series by Mike Judge, creator of King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead, Will's favorite.
Ugh.
And this is like an animated pharmaceutical drama, which is pretty fucking timely, I'd say. No, not the it was in direct response because that's impossible. Seemingly about a cure-all mushroom that different characters are kind of warring over. There's this like eccentric genius. I don't know if hippie's the right word, but like, you know, he's keeping this mushroom from like big pharma who just wants to, charge out the ass for it. A journalist is involved. And I've seen, in addition to this trailer, I've seen just some raw clips of the show, and I think it looks so fucking stunning. Not in the sense that I like the art style. I don't think it's like an artistic triumph aesthetically, at least from the start. But I love animation that's like, for lack of a better term, adult animation, quote unquote, but not because it's like, Has Been Hotel, where everyone's like, hey, fuck Nugget, I'm gonna kill, but like, it just handles themes that might not necessarily resonate with every kid. And, it's one of the, a lot of Mike Judge works, people are like, well, why can't this just be live action? But, I think just the freedom to do cool shit in animation is always reason enough. Like if that's your vision, then go for it. I think this show does some really cool stuff with like tweening. There's a clip that I kind of wish I showed you both where two government agents are dancing to Shake 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 Senora and they like move to the beat and it skips frames so it just like looks really funny. Um this is starting I think this weekend as we record this, but it's still early enough for Life or Death to be declared. I'm giving it a glowing life. I'm so fucking excited for this one.
Yeah, I think like when I first saw the like still image of it, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be bad." But like when you actually see it in motion, I think it looks really good. I haven't watched a ton of King of the Hill, and I don't like Beavis and Butthead. Um but like I trust this. I think it's going to be good. I give it a life.
I'll also give it a life. I thought it looked good from the very first trailer. I like the concept. Big Pharma is evil, so
Very
I'm
true.
always going to be rooting against them. So, life for me.
Right. Well, I can't wait to watch that. It's premiering this weekend, and I think it'll be on Max on Monday, so I'll be there. Maybe to talk about it next month. We'll see. Super amped for it. I love a plus-sized, hairy protagonist. Literally me, for real.
Hmm.
Well, the movie we actually all saw and enjoyed was not Amelia Perez. It was Nosferatu. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Robert Eggers, one of the best in the business. I found it really cool. It's not the kind of movie that I have like paragraphs and paragraphs to gas on about, but it was a Robert Eggers joint. I think I like The Lighthouse better, and I might like The Witch better. But after I thought The Northman was a little just not terrible by any means, but kind of eh. I thought this was a really good return to form.
I really love Robert Eggers. I would say him and Ari Aster are probably my two, like, the two directors I always have my eye on, even though I do think no one does it like Eggers.
Mm-hmm.
I think in modern history, because, like, I was thinking about this, and I have he's only made 4 big screen movies, as far as I know. But I don't think he's ever made a movie that I've seen and didn't like. The first time I watched The Witch, I didn't like it. The second time I watched it, I was like, this is fucking incredible. The Lighthouse is incredible. I do think The Northman is definitely the weakest of the bunch, but it's still really good. He just has, like, such an eye for aesthetic. And so I feel like that's really on display here with Nosferatu. And holy shit, Bill Skarsgård, fucking incredible Nosferatu.
He's so
Count
good,
Orlok. Nosferatu. Yeah, no, I would say his movies go... The Lighthouse is my favorite, then The Witch, then this, then The Northman.
This one was really... I mean, like, I really enjoy, like, the basic story of Nosferatu, like the original 20s silent film. I honestly kind of dug it. So, like, this and then the Werner Herzog one was really good too, and this was kind of like the ultimate version, I think, out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It has this just immaculate tone to it. It really just this expertly crafted... like, the way the world presents is just almost surreal, almost dreamlike sometimes. Usually you feel like you're stuck in a nightmare. And just all the performances and the writing, I think, just really stick to that tone very well. Yeah, Bill Skarsgård, Count Orlok, really great. The only complaint I have is I don't like the little hair that he has on his head.
Yeah.
His little nerve ending, his pin fucking hair.
It's like Pym hair, yeah. I like the mustache. I like that it kind of makes him look like Vlad the Impaler. But, like, keep Count Orlok bald, man. Just let him be bald. He's bald representation. It's really great.
I was gonna say, I really like that they basically kept his design hidden until the movie was actually out. It kind of like, damned as I am to invoke the Matthew Broderick Godzilla. I thought the marketing for that movie is kind of genius because they don't show what Godzilla looks like. There's just ads that say, like, his head is the size of this billboard, or, his foot is the size of this bus, Godzilla. And then everyone saw Godzilla and was disappointed. But, like, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like we get trailers nowadays that don't, like, spoil the movie completely. So it's nice that we had some mystique around that. And, like, it's not that he's so hideous he can't even be comprehended, but, like, so much of that character is about being kind of a shadowy presence. Like, it's his influence over the town. So I think it kind of is faithful to that notion that they kept him hidden for pretty much all of the marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm very happy that his design wasn't leaked in any way, because it is, like, I don't know, I feel like vampires are really hard to make scary, but, like, the fact that he looks like, a rotting corpse, pretty much, I think they did a really good job with that. I think it's a bit asinine that it didn't get a nom for, makeup and effects, but then again, this Oscar year has some controversial nominations.
Yeah, not Amelia Perez.
Yeah.
I think his design is very good at capturing like the vibe of like, okay, he's a horrible, disgusting, horrifying creature, but also you can kind of walk away and feel like a non-zero number of your female friends would probably jump his bones.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, there's someone out there for everyone, is all I'll say.
Yeah.
It was gonna be Anya Taylor-Joy, veteran of Eggers' work, as in Lily Rose Depp's place, but her schedule got a little booked. And damned as she's one of my favorite actors right now. I actually think that change might have been for the better. I think Anya, she has her strengths come from, she's not. I don't find her like vulnerable. I find her a bit more. What am I looking for?
She's a bit more like in control of her own fate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She always strikes me as an autonomous character, someone with a lot of fire. Even like in the Vitch and in the Northman, I never really view her as a victim. Not that Lily Rose. I want to. Gosh, I can't remember this character's name because I know they're different from Dracula, so I know it's not Mina Harker, but I can't remember what her name is in this version. Yeah. Isabel? Am I pulling that out of my ass?
Oh my gosh, I like, as much as I like the movie, I don't really know any of the names besides Count or Thomas.
Thomas. Have you seen that post? I was like, I'll just die without my Thomas, and someone was like, me when I lose my favorite tank engine.
I think I saw that too.
I thought, yeah, Lily Rose, I think, takes on the more, hard to say without sounding mean, but she comes off as a bit better as this, possessed Cupid doll who's in a bad situationship, I guess, is how I would describe it.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, I think she's really good in this. She kind of beat those Nepo baby allegations after The Idol. So, I think this will be maybe her star-making role. I'm excited to see what she does next.
Mm-hmm.
We ready to move? I guess with that awkward pause, are we ready to move on to our selected? I guess, do we want to talk about presents? We all saw that as well.
I was honestly thinking of maybe making that my third.
Right, you told that to me, and I just completely brain farted it. So do that. Dad,
Okay.
do you anything else about Nosferatu?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Will, take the wheel. We've been waiting all month.
All right. So this month, I have been immersing myself in a show at the recommendation of Jay. It's a show that I have watched a few episodes of, but now I am fully addicted to it, and I'm almost to the most current season. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is fucking incredible. It is so fucking funny that even in, I feel like, the worst episodes, which, I feel like the worst episode of Always Sunny is still can be better than, the best episodes of a lot of other shows. Can just always make me laugh. Every character in there is a fucking blast. But it's also kind of fun because I don't like any of them, but I also like all of them. I know that might be a little confusing, but they're all horrible people. You've got Charlie, who stalks the love of his life. Dee, who is pretty bitter and angry at the world. And then you've got Mac, and he's gay. And you've got I'm kidding, of course. And you've got, Frank, who is, a top 1%er that just, throws around all his money. And then there's Dennis, who is Dennis. And his crimes are probably innumerable. So they're all horrible people, but I think that really works in the show's favor. I feel like a big problem with a lot of sitcoms I've seen is, you root for the team, and then every time at the end of the episode, bad shit happens to them. Like in a typical sitcom, that's the general formula, or they'll do something and it's like, I can't remember the one, but it's like, oh, I think it was Zach and Cody. There's one where it's like, oh, we're gonna become famous. We got this competition, and then something bad happens, and it's like back to square one.
Yeah, reset to zero, even if it kind of sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like because all the characters in Always Sunny are such bad people, it kind of makes the ending satisfying. You know that, Dee's not gonna become famous, but because she screws it up, and like it's her fault, and she's not a good person throughout it, you don't really feel bad for her. And all of the actors on the show give some of the greatest comedic performances I think I've ever seen. The main gang, Frank, D, Mac, Charlie, Dennis. I've just grown like a complete new appreciation for all their actors. I think Glenn Howerton on his own is fucking insane, and I wish we could see him in more stuff. Danny DeVito's Danny DeVito. He's just fantastic. But I think overall, the reason the show works so much is it's just really fucking funny. And it's very, because the main characters are such assholes, they can push the envelope so much more while not making it, offensive. Or seeming like a, this is okay to do because they're the main characters,
They're never, something to, strive for. I think they make that very clear.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I am just absolutely loving this show. I think a few of my favorite episodes are The Night Man Cometh is obviously an all-timer.
Oh.
The Gang Turns Black is very, very fucking funny. And then followed instantly by The Gang Goes to a Water Park.
Oh, that was so good.
I think the ending of that episode with the slide is I just always look back and think about that, and it can make me chuckle. The hardest I've ever probably laughed during the show, oddly enough, is Frank's viral video. Do y'all remember that part?
Is that because this video is a virus or something?
Yeah, because it's a computer virus.
Yeah.
I think after that episode, I just pulled the clip up on YouTube and kept rewinding to that part just because I think it's really funny how he says it.
Well, isn't it and it's also a virus or something like?
Yeah, I think we definitely have to watch it again. It's just so. It's just every joke in the show is so good, and there's some that end in a very harsh way, I guess I'll say. In the episode I just watched, Dennis and Mac are opening up their room to a couple for an Airbnb, and they overhear them
a meat cube, like a meat cube.
Oh yeah, that's the episode.
Yeah.
And they hear them arguing about someone named Teddy, so they're like, oh, they're cheating on one of them is cheating with Teddy. And then at the end, they're like, oh, forget Teddy. You don't need Teddy, just bury that idea. And then at the end, they're like, Teddy is our son who died from leukemia.
Oh my God.
But it's because it is such a shock, and you can look back and you realize that the entire time they've been making metaphors about they're like, oh yeah, find Teddy again, dig him up, and it's just a fantastic show. I would highly recommend it to anyone because it's just, you might be doing bad, but you're not sleeping in a one-bedroom apartment and pissing in cans on the floor and eating cat food to go to bed like Frank and Charlie.
Playing a game of night crawlers. You didn't mention my favorite episode, though, which is Mac and Dennis go to the suburb.
Oh, that one is really good. Newsflash, asshole!
So good. Yeah, it's one of my personal favorites. I fell off kind of recently, but I'd be open to, like, around the time when they go to Ireland. I didn't not that I actively quit, but I just haven't watched it in a while. So I should really, I feel like I should get back to that one.
I think the Ireland season is very weak, but the most recent season is pretty good.
Oh, wonderful. Gosh, yeah, no, it was one of my earliest video essays, was Always Sunny, which means it's probably really bad, but I think, it's been one of those that's been with me for a really long time. I fucking love that show. God, yeah, I agree with you. I think Dennis is one of my all-time favorite characters. I think that they made a show where it's like, because they did that Abbott Elementary crossover recently, and it wasn't. When I heard on paper they were doing that, I thought it would be a fucking disaster. But I watched it, and it's not terrible, but these characters can only exist in their fucked up world. I don't think you can cross them over.
Well, if I'm correct, I know you told me that in that episode they had to write out Dennis because he's just such a comically evil person.
Which I think that's cowardly on their part. Because they establish in The Gang Goes to the Water Park that Dennis isn't a pedophile,
Yeah.
I think that's honestly one of the best Dennis storylines, is he takes a evil little girl under his wing. I think that'd be an amazing. I think, from what I hear, it had more to do with Glenn Howerton's filming schedule than them not knowing what to do with Dennis. But that could also be an excuse. And I don't know. It strikes me as come on, Dennis is great. You could do so much with him.
Yeah,
or at least try. Yeah. No, I almost toasted him. Abbott Elementary as a whole, I have a weird relationship with, because I think the first couple seasons are straight up bad. And I was getting ready to watch the crossover and roast it, but that season where they do the crossover is actually not so bad. So I kind of ate my words, even if the crossover itself kind of didn't stick the landing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I think I'm definitely going to give it a try, but
the first 2 seasons I think are straight up bad, but when I was like, okay, I should at least have the context of the season around the crossover if I'm gonna check out the crossover out of morbid curiosity. They kind of get their shit together in that last new season. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think there's truly nothing like it. I love Always Sunny.
Years before you eat. Sorry.
What'd you say?
I was gonna say, years before you fully watched it, the Dayman was our theater class chant in high school.
Yeah, and now I'm glad that I can finally immerse myself in it.
Oh yeah. Dad, what's your favorite episode?
Yeah.
It might be the Christmas special.
I
just
that one is really good.
The funniest delivery in the show is just Charlie going, "Did you fuck my mom?" to the Santa.
Did you fuck my mom? And then he bites his neck and he's like, "He's biting me."
I think that part's amazing. I think people don't give enough credit to Max. Fucked up. Well, they were gonna come steal my presents. I had to steal their presents. That's how it worked. Oh, have you seen? So you've reached Mac Finds His Pride, right?
Yeah, I just watched that one today.
I think there are billions of universes where that episode, does not stick the landing and it fully fails. But I think they pulled it off pretty well.
I agree. Oh my god. I get it.
perfect reaction image.
But yeah, I will pass it over to, unless, do any of y'all want to say anything else?
I think good.
I'm good.
All right, then, Dav, it is your turn.
Okay, let's talk about Like a Dragon Yakuza.
Hell yeah.
It was a bit of a shock last year when we got the announcement that Yakuza was being turned into an Amazon Prime original TV series. Oh boy. So,
Just like well, you mean like just like my favorite show, Fallout, the great show Fallout, the same people.
Same streaming service, at least.
Yeah.
So, Fallout turned out very well. Both from a critical standpoint and a financial one, evidently. It was the most streamed series last year on Amazon Prime. Like a Dragon Yakuza did not have quite the same outcome. This is a series that I have not seen much discussion on at all, even on, like, the Yakuza subreddit. People just don't talk about it. They didn't talk about it when it came out. Most of the conversation was driven by the trailers and kind of the hype cycle leading up to it. But it was a hype cycle that was constantly dwindling, because every time we heard something new about the series, it just sounded like it wasn't going to turn out very well. And, ultimately, they dropped it all on the same day, I believe, or it was either that or, like, the first 3 episodes, and then the last half the week after. In any case, we got it all pretty shortly. It's only a 6-episode series, and I am roasting it because it's not good.
I was gonna say, it sounded like it's almost worse to be liminal than like outlandishly bad. Like shit like Velma gets enough publicity to have a second season, where I don't know if this will, because just even worse than being a big fucking train wreck is nobody's talking about it.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
That's really the thing with this. And this, like, unfortunately, I can't even really give this series the credit of saying that it's, like, mid or fine, because, taking away the Like a Dragon tie-in, it just kind of sucks. It's not very good. It's, okay, so it is not at all faithful to the original game. This is supposed to sort of be an adaptation of Yakuza 1 / Yakuza Kiwami. It mostly takes place around the same time. So it's mostly in 2005. The storyline is vaguely reminiscent of that game, in that Kiryu is there, and Majima is there, and Nishiki is there.
10 years in the joint made you a fucking pussy.
Nishiki, I'll give his actor credit. I think that Nishiki is like the best performed character in the series. His character is so different from the original. I mean, the look of Kiryu and Nishiki is kind of in line with how they look in the game, but even then they just change some things that don't need to be changed. Ultimately, the big problem with this series is that if you know the original Yakuza story, there's just enough going on that matches up that makes you kind of make assumptions about other things that turn out to not be true. So, like, Haruka is in the series. She is essentially just a generic little girl. She doesn't look like the game at all, and she doesn't do anything. She's not as quippy or, like, independent as Haruka is in the game. And her and Kiryu don't even, like, really talk to each other, like, at all. Because the biggest change I think they made was to the character of Yumi, who in the original game was just kind of like... she didn't have a huge role, but she was established as like a childhood friend for Kiryu and Nishiki. And she is kind of just absent for most of the game, and then kind of appears at the end as like one of the big plot twists. Instead, she is a very persistent character in this series, arguably in it more than Kiryu, and she survives. So,
oh, interesting.
A lot of people. Okay, the weirdest thing is, in the original game, Kiryu goes to prison in 1995 because he's taking the fall for Nishiki, who murdered Dojima. And in this series, Dojima doesn't die. He's alive the entire time. And I swear to God, I watched the first couple episodes back a couple times trying to figure out what the explanation was. Mm-hmm. I have no fucking idea why Kiryu was in prison for 10 years in the series. I can't figure it out, and nobody seems to know. There's no explanation for it. The Dragon of Dojima title is not a descriptive Yakuza title. It's just like Dojima held underground MMA fights somewhere, and
that's lame.
Whoever won the championship of that was the Dragon of Dojima. So you just had to basically be good at MMA, and Kiryu saw that as a kid, and it was like a guy with the dragon tattoo on, and was crowned the Dragon of Dojima, and Kiryu was just like, I want to be that. So it undermines Kiryu's relationship with Kazuma, because he's not looking at him as the thing to emulate. He's looking at this, for the most part, no face, no identity Dragon of Dojima who just won this fighting championship somewhere at some point.
That blows.
It really sucks. Because it completely decanonizes Yakuza 0. None of that happened, and in 1995, 10 years before 05, in the game's timeline, Kiryu has already been established as the Dragon of Dojima for a while. He's been with the Yakuza for almost a decade. In this, he's still at the he's still a kid, at the orphanage, and something happens that instantly gets him put into prison, and he comes out basically the same character as the game's Kiryu. So it doesn't add up. There's so much weird shit they changed, and so if you're going in and you're watching this and you've already played the game, you're just more lost than ever because you can't tell what actually is the same and what isn't. Majima has maybe 3 or 4 minutes of screen time in the entire series. He's just kind of this laughing guy practically in the background, and I know he didn't have the biggest role in Yakuza 1, but he was still a constant presence who had this clearly defined rivalry with Kiryu, but they just don't really interact much in the series at all.
It does just kind of seem like one of those almost classic video game adaptations where it's basically not an adaptation except for one or two things.
It really is, yeah. It's the classic problem of sort of adapting but not going all the way with it, so everybody's confused. I'd imagine if you watch this and you haven't played the original game, you're just going to be really lost because there are some things that you are left to kind of assume or catch on to from the games. But it just isn't going to get everybody. Nobody watching this, I think, is going to have really any kind of experience with it. It's very forgettable. It's all over the place. I think Saejima is in it, and I think he dies.
Oh, shit.
He's just comes across as a normal dumbass goon who gets shot. I think that was Saejima getting killed. The Millennium Tower. The Millennium Tower is a giant Star Wars building. It's this comically massive, super skyscraper in the middle of Kamurocho, and it is shaped like an alien penis. It's not like the original Millennium Tower, which is just a big-ass office building.
Well, that and I think of how, I'm a layman to Fallout, but that show does a good job, ingratiating you to the world while telling its own story, where it's okay, I get what's going on here. Whereas this, it sounds like you're describing just complete nonsense.
It is total, complete nonsense. They add characters that I think are supposed to be analogs to characters in the games, but they're just not quite the same. Some characters are given names of other characters in the game. Like, I think there's a Goda in there who is not the same as Ryuji Goda.
What the fuck? Yeah.
It feels like little, like, fan servicey moments, like Star Wars sequel shit, where they're like, heh, we know about this thing from the games.
Yeah.
But it just makes it more confusing that it's not the same thing. Nishiki, for example, in this, while he has a lot of the same, like, character arc of, like, kind of becoming more violent and insane as, like, his sister's condition regresses, they pretty much give him the character arc of the villain from Judgment, in that he is, for some reason, like a masked serial killer at the same time as he's the head of his clan.
Hey, what the fuck?
That's
fucking nuts.
It's like almost the same as the one in Judgment, and it's so confusing because I don't think Nishiki's whole thing was that he was like a bloodthirsty killer. Even at the end there, it was like a slow decline to that point. And a lot of these complaints that I'm throwing out about this are probably just going to sound like, oh, it's not the same as the game, therefore it sucks. It's more so that it's just a lot of confusing nonsense, and if you have played the games, you're objectively in for a worse experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what they're going for with the series. I don't know why it was made. I don't know what they had intended for the future, because you sure as hell weren't going to get to adapt Yakuza 2 and 3 continuing on this storyline. They would have been completely different. So yeah, overall, just a waste of time. I don't think it's going to get another season. And honestly, just go watch Takashi Miike's Like a Dragon movie, because as much as the casting is not the great, some of the weird adaptational shit they put in there doesn't really fit. At least it's a lot more fun to watch and quite a bit more faithful to the source story, and it has like an amazing Majima. So that's my recommendation. Fuck this series. On to you, Tommy.
All right. And I just wanted to say too, like it's like Twisted Metal as an adaptation is super different, but like it's constructive, how they change things. It always feels like it's for something that's, I don't want to say more. I think it loses meaning to say it's more than the sum of its parts, but like, it creates something that's, it's faithful if it's not accurate. And this sounds just like a total fucking mess.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least it had a Mr. Blue Sky needle drop.
Yeah, true.
Oh, shit.
Well, but it's okay because we're getting a new season of The Last of Us this year, and it'll remind us that like our baby video games have some cultural value. All it takes is benevolent TV executives to look upon our childish hobbies and like, make them worth a damn.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
Yeah. Friends, I watched Better Man. This is the biopic about Robbie Williams, who I never heard of until I heard about this movie. And the whole thing is that this movie's kind of a punching bag because nobody in America knows who fucking Robbie Williams is. And everyone, because he's like a big pop star in the UK, and everyone in the UK is like, I'm fucking tired of Robbie Williams. So no one really wanted to watch this movie. It's actually pretty fucking good, and I really liked Better Man. And I have not even mentioned yet, the big draw of the film is that Robbie Williams plays himself, but always with the visage of a CGI monkey, a CGI chimpanzee. And it is never addressed in the film. The characters don't acknowledge it. It is simply a purely aesthetic, artistic choice. Robbie says it communicates that fame made him feel unevolved and like a dancing monkey, and it probably helped that he could play himself at every age, even though he's like 50 now. But like, is what it is. But this is a musical directed by Michael Gracie, who directed The Greatest Showman, which is one of the most juiceless fucking movies I've ever seen. And I think that I was shocked by how legitimately fucking fun this was. It has just like, and like, make no mistake, it is a full blown, even though it's a musician biopic, it's not like, oh, it's a musical in the sense that he sings his songs sometimes. It breaks into musical numbers, and it's clearly a break from like the diegetic reality of the film, where they're just like, you know, having a, however you view musical numbers in that context, where it's not, you know, literally happening. It's a bold expression of emotion. So you got like, oh man, I almost don't want to give this away, but I will just say Robbie's like imagination in conjunction with his singing turns one of the musical numbers into an honestly kind of stunning like Lord of the Rings battle.
Really?
Oh, it's fucking cool. Another one, Rock DJ is my favorite part because it's just this very genuinely really fun musical number. You know, he does like the Michael Jackson lean after he tripped. It's like there's a giant gumball machine, and before you can question why a giant gumball machine is in London, they break it open and gumballs spill everywhere, and they do like the dance move where you trip on them and then do the Michael Jackson lean. And I'm like, I don't care anymore. This is amazing. It's fucking fun. It's really fucking great. You know, take what I say with a grain of salt. Obviously, this isn't a one-size-fits-all statement, but by and large, I don't like biopics, and I really don't like musician biopics. I think that they cover a lot of the same rhythms and beats over and fucking over again. And what's really, really refreshing is that Robbie Williams was personally involved. He plays himself. He's like, from what I understand, close with Michael Gracie. So it's not some twerp who's like navel-gazing about how amazing Johnny Cash was, or I don't give a shit. And he definitely does have a bit of an ego, but it never really takes that story turn of like, well, he was just so fucking genius. Like, you don't even understand. It's like, he was completely unknown. It was just his genius, you know? Like, he's full of himself insofar as like his talent and charisma, but it's never a plot point of like, well, I was just too smart for it. It's, you know, he's very, insofar as his hand in the narrative, he's very open about having issues with narcissism and substance abuse, and having a lot of charisma to kind of help keep him afloat. And I think that's just a much more interesting direction than, look how fucking cool I think Buddy Holly is, or whatever the fuck. You know, and his story is genuinely pretty compelling. You know, not to say biopics can't lie. You know, I don't know how much of it is entirely true, but, you know, I'm willing to take his word for it as to kind of the horrors of being a pop star in the aughts. Because this whole deal was he was picked up to be in a boy band before he went on to his solo act. You know, and there's parts that are, you know, horrifying as to how he was expected to behave, how he was treated by his management. And it's also just way easier to kind of root for. You get way better underdog vibes because he's not Robbie, he's a chimpanzee the whole time. And it's not, you know, if Bob Dylan has the face of today's most beloved actor, Timothée Chalamet, I have a harder time believing he's an underdog. But if Robbie Williams is a chimpanzee, it's like, yeah, no, he actually has to put in some effort. He's kind of at a disadvantage here. He is a chimpanzee. They talk about his closest relationship with another pop star. She was in a girl band called something about faith, it's on the tip of my tongue. Her name was Nicole something, and their story's honestly heartbreaking. How, you know, not to say Robbie Williams' hands are clean for his, you know, part in how they fell out, but a lot of the awful ways really young stars are treated. That's something that always really compels me. Seeing like they perform in a gay club and spank their asses one day, and then the next day give a talk at a school about safe sex. Because, like, we need our pop stars to be both sex symbols and role models, at least in that particular era of our confused fucking culture. Nowadays, we don't seem to care. Well, a little bit, but that's a whole nother discussion. I thought this was fucking terrific. And like, again, I think maybe the fact that I'm an unwashed American who doesn't fucking know Robbie Williams, all that, I just like listened to a bunch of his music before I saw the movie just to get a taste. I was really enjoying myself, and maybe the fact that I'm not super ingratiated to his narrative made it more of a surprise, and I was like more open as opposed to someone who's just sick of him. And like, you know what? For as many people who are making fun of this movie, it did get an Oscar nomination for best visual effects, because they made that monkey look monkey, and it was fucking great. If it won over Wicked, I would like be overjoyed. I think I would be doing fucking somersaults because Wicked.
Would you be getting high, and the girls even more so?
No head, no backstage passes. Leave it to your asses. Better Man is so fucking fun. I mentioned it has an Oscar nom, but it didn't come out here in the US till 2025, so that's how I log it in my 2025 ranking. It's my favorite of the year so far. Not that it has, like, huge competition, but, like, I could see it taking a little bit to really be shaken off of there. I heartily recommend it. I think it is so much fun.
I think it says a lot that despite how interesting that looks, and despite how much these biopics are trying to stand apart, like, I think last year we also got the, is it called Piece by Piece, the Pharrell Lego?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think anyone saw that, right?
I did not see it.
If anyone was going to give that movie a bone, it would have been me. And,
it's just that's the thing, like, that and this, they're trying to make biopics that do something a little bit interesting to change away from the formula, because they are so tired out. They've been tired out for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't really bring myself to, like, enjoy any of these unless it's about, like, a musician that I already really care about, and there aren't a lot of those, so, like, I might check out the Led Zeppelin thing, but that looks like it's going to be more of, like, a documentary than a biopic, and that's kind of what interests me about that.
And I think it says a lot, too, that like, we got A Complete Unknown, which is a very straight Bob Dylan biopic, and I think even the fucking Back to Black movie, which my grandma wanted to watch when I visited her in Florida, and she didn't even like it. I was like, this is horse shit. I think those were probably both more, if not on the bubble, in success compared to, like, Piece by Piece and Better Man, which are trying to shake up the formula, like you said. So if the culture leans anywhere, it's probably away from here.
I just think that inherently you have to make shit up with these biopics, because like, interesting stuff happens to interesting people. That's true. But, like, if you were to really delve deep into, like, how these people spent their days and, like, what they were doing to achieve the success that they did, it would be so fucking boring. It would be just hours and hours of them practicing and honing their craft. And sure, some of them were also going on drug-fueled benders to cope with that. But, like, you just really can't make good drama out of real people's lives for the most part. Interesting things happen, but people are not movie-level interesting.
Yeah. And I think that what Better Man kind of toes that line, in that it is like, you know, I wouldn't clutch my pearls if I learned something didn't actually happen. But I think it, you know, through the character of the chimpanzee, it kind of heightens it in the first place.
So the character of the chimpanzee is an insane sentence. I'm sorry.
That's the name of my fucking autobiography. So Sorry. And so like you already have made peace that you're watching a chimpanzee, and he's like cartoonish. Like what I like about him too is that Robbie Williams is this expressive kind of Bugs Bunny-esque guy, for better or worse, and the chimpanzee is like lifting his eyebrows and doing more legwork than like he makes Mufasa look like a fucking oil painting. Uh, Fucking lack of emotion. And so, because he's such a cartoon, you kind of, at least I found myself very accepting to like, okay, well, this probably didn't happen exactly like that. Like, a moment I personally really love, and this is kind of a spoiler, but it also really happened to him, so I guess it's not much of a spoiler. A really big part of his humbling over the years was the loss of his grandma, who's really close to him. She died. And you see at one point, and like he and his grandma would stay up all night eating chips and watching comedy specials on TV. And so there's a point in the movie where he's like making peace with a lot of people, and he just drags like a CRTV tube TV with a big ass cable into the graveyard and sets it up in front of his grandma's grave and sits by it and just eats chips like they used to. And I'm like, okay, obviously Robbie Williams did not drag a TV into a cemetery with the world's longest extension cord and eat chips with the grave of his grandmother. But seeing the chimp version do that just like gave me that separation from reality that I kind of rolled with it. And I think a lot of the movie kind of gets by on points like that. That's just my point of view, though.
Yeah, I mean, if it does enough stuff that is unique, I think it's definitely something that I might check out, even if it is just when it comes to streaming.
Yeah. No, yeah, Paramount spent a ridiculous amount of money acquiring it, and now they're embarrassed because no one. Which, even as someone who likes the movie, it's like, well, who among us would go out of their way to see Better Man and give it to an American audience? I don't really know what they were thinking. I never heard, like, I'm pretty plugged into pop culture and obscure references, and I didn't know who fucking Robbie Williams was until this movie came out. And I can eat crow that I ended up liking it, but still, it's, I feel like, they stuck the stick into their own bike wheel on that one. Alright. Well, that about covers it. Do we, anything else before we move on?
Monkey.
I think so.
Monkey. Alright. Will, it is back to you. Round 2.
Alright, do a bit of a, sandwich, because I've got a roast and then finally a toast. This Saturday, we saw Presents. It's a movie that marketed itself as a ghost story from the perspective of the ghost, which I think is a really cool idea. I wasn't a fan of this one, and I was really hoping I would be, and I think, like, after, sitting on it and marinating on it a bit, I was wondering if I was being too harsh. But I didn't love this one, and it's starting to have me worried about just like neon horror, because I didn't love Longlegs either. I'm sure it's just like,
sorry,
what's
was Nosferatu neon?
I
feel
think
like
so.
No, it was Cuckoo neon.
I think Cuckoo was, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that one either.
Because I feel like it was a whole joke that, like, so many people think Nosferatu is A24 when it is, in fact, something else. It might be.
Oh.
Oh, well, I guess it's not. It's kind of not here or there. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. The thing about this movie that I think doesn't work is it very quickly established that the ghost is a good guy, and it kind of takes out all tension. I know the movie was marketed as a scary movie, but there's really nothing in it that I found, like, super scary or super, I guess, even creepy. I can't go into spoilers because it, literally just came out. But I thought that what they ended up doing with the ghost was an interesting twist that also had me feeling nothing. I felt like because the ghost was, kind of instantly put out as a good guy, it kind of washed down the concept because, a few people have said that, like, it would be interesting to have this concept with a malicious entity, and then we can, like, see them, sneaking up on people like they do in, typical ghost movies. I thought that would have been really interesting. On top of which, it doesn't really matter that there is a ghost in it. It matters for, I think, maybe 2 scenes, but for the rest of it, it just does kind of seem like a gimmick. As with most, I guess, highbrow horror movies nowadays, it's a metaphor for trauma. And we know that because there's a scene where a psychic comes and for about 5 minutes talks about why the ghost is actually trauma. Which I thought, in movies like Hereditary, I think that's done very well because it's subtle. But in this movie, when it is kind of just like, there's a scene where the character honestly quite literally turns to the camera and talks to us about what the metaphor is. Really just kind of makes it seem like they wanted it to be a metaphor, but they weren't quite sure that it would play.
So I have my own take on that scene and why I thought it was really effective, but it's all kind of a spoiler and I don't want to stomp on it. So let's put a pin into it for when we can approach more spoilery things. That's just what I wanted. I just want to make sure we don't forget.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. I think, I guess I was just kind of let down by it because I think it is a fantastic concept that isn't really taken to its fullest except for maybe 1 or 2 scenes. I thought that the fact that, there's basically not a lot of scary stuff, if any, was kind of a bummer. I think the dialogue and the performances were really good. I think that's absolutely the strong suit. But overall, I don't know. This just wasn't for me. I felt like it wanted to do something that it was not able to do, and when it tried to do it, it just didn't work as well as it could. I don't know if we want to get into spoilers. Put a little, like, thing on the screen to say when spoiler talk is over.
We'll just say so, and people can... Because no one's watching, staring at the screen as they listen to the podcast.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'd be a little concerned if they were.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess spoilers. The spoiler is that the ghost is actually... So, the ghost has, like, attached itself to the daughter of the family, and it turns out the ghost is the brother's ghost sent back in time to save the sister, which again I think is... That
is not how I Where did you get the idea that that was the case?
The psychic says so.
Yeah, and at the end, the mom says he came back to save her.
You see him in the reflection of the mirror, and like the psychic said that it feels like it's like basically in a different time or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I do like that. I didn't piece that together. I was high as fuck when we watched this.
Yeah,
fair enough. I do like that less.
Yeah, I don't know, and I also think... Oh, go ahead.
There's still a couple things I dig my heels about, but you go on.
Well, I feel like that also kind of reduces the trauma metaphor, because now it's like, oh no, the ghost isn't trauma, it's the brother, so it's a message about, like, familial love. But it's just kind of neither here nor there, and that's why I feel like the ending didn't work. It just seemed like they tried to, and it's a short movie. I think the person at the theater said it was like 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah. I think 110 minutes.
Oh, okay, that makes a bit more sense.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't really dig it, and I didn't dig what they did with the ending either. Tommy, I'll let you have the floor, because you mentioned that you had something to say.
See, yeah, I thought when they saw the brother in the mirror, I thought he died and his ghost was stuck there. So I didn't. Okay. I guess so. I want to talk about, I guess, a few. I personally like this, even if, like, in retrospect, I don't like that plot twist very much. Now that I can actually piece that together, I'm with you both. I don't think it's great, and I'm with you on the performances. I think it's it reminded me a bit of Hereditary with just how like uncomfortable the like familial arguments could get. And where I think it benefited from the concept was that whoever the ghost may be, you're at their point of view, and the ghost doesn't like conveniently edit its point of view or look away. It would hang on things for like kind of an uncomfortable amount of time. It does. I like movies that kind of lift the curtain and show you things that movies don't always show you because of like the expedience of editing and stuff like that, but kind of does it in a conceptual way. And I thought that ghost POV was like a good way to do that. Like, I'm not saying it's like avant-garde in that way, but there are moments where they hang on it for like such a good amount of time in a way that you kind of, I don't want to say you forget you're watching a movie, but like I do think it authentically represents like the feeling of not being able to like get away from a train wreck, you know what I mean? And and maybe it hits harder because I've had family arguments as the youngest similar to what was going on in this movie at times. Not the same issues, but like one or 2 points where the dad snaps is when I'm like, oh, sorry, Dad. And you're not able to escape from that argument in real life. So I appreciated the concept lending itself to not being able to look away. And that kind of got me to sympathize with the ghost, who has a lot of it struck me as a very helpless character. Like, it is a little vague as to what the ghost can and can't do, which is maybe not great, but, I feel like there were points, there's points where I'm shaking my head like, no, like, don't even. And, like, you get that feeling from the ghost where it seems like their contact with the world is very limited and you can only do so much. And I found myself pretty compelled by that. I think the medium is one of the best parts of the movie because I'm sure, in the text of the film, I think she really did see the ghost, all that jazz. I think it does a really good job of leaving it. I don't want to sound like a stupid hog and say it's ambiguous, but they leave little trails of doubt, I'd say. There's, scarier than any fucking ghost in this movie is that the medium does her whole shtick, she sees the ghost, and then her husband or whatever, pulls the dad aside and is like, she can't go back to work after doing one of these for a day. And he's like, oh, right. And the dad, gets out money. And that's why I'm like, no, you motherfucker, don't. And, no matter, even though I think the camera plays deliberate tricks to make it seem as though the medium knows what she's talking about, they leave, those little fucking seeds of doubt that I think are, make it hard for me to fully buy in. And make it seem a little like it could be kind of bullshit what she's saying. And that's just the real horror is how Lucy Liu is gonna react when she finds out he fucking paid him, I thought it conducted itself really well in that regard. And I think I agree with you, parts are hokey, and some of the rules are a bit vague, but the subgenre of horror that is family arguments, I think this one holds its own pretty well.
I think the family argument scenes are definitely really good. I don't think I agree with the seeds of doubt, because I feel like even just from when she walked in, she instantly sees the ghost.
Yeah.
So, but I can see.
Agree.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I think the best part of this movie is the human element, and I guess what my big problem with it is I didn't really think that it needed to be a ghost story in that case. It could have just been a one continuous shot movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that's...
Sorry.
I was just gonna say that's just That's just my personal opinion, and I
Yeah.
could definitely see why people think otherwise. I know it's getting like it's a bit of a new gen Skinnamarink, according to Letterboxd, where you either like really like it or just don't. So I think it is definitely one of those movies that fills that niche of it's for a group of people, and if you don't have like those tastes, then you're probably not gonna like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dav, I don't know if you have any thoughts about the movie.
So I liked it. I thought it was pretty good overall, but it's kind of a similar situation that I felt with like Heretic. Though maybe not quite as negative, because with Heretic I had like this idea going in that it was going to be like a religious horror, and it turned out not to be, and overall the final product was something that I just wasn't crazy about. But with this, it was like I was going with the expectation that this was a horror movie. It turned out not to be, really. But it's still, like, decent in its own regard. Like, I can kind of enjoy it for what it is. I think that the marketing was so misleading. I think,
Yeah.
like, I don't know where they got these, like, quotes
Weren't
from.
they saying like this is the scariest horror movie of the year?
Yeah, there was,
It's
like...
not scary.
There was a bunch of like journalistic quotes like attached to it, and I thought I saw somebody somewhere like, so yeah, there was some that were like, this is the scariest movie of the year, and there was like, I saw a quote somewhere about how like they were watching the movie and there were so many moments of tension where they were like screaming at the TV to the characters to not go into a certain room or whatever. I never got that feeling a single time, because they really did establish very early on that the ghost is friendly. I never got a single sense of danger with it, which I think is a missed opportunity, because I think this type of movie, this like ghost perspective, could work super well if it actually was a horror movie. But even then, I don't think that it fully, like, on its own uses the concept to its fullest potential. I think that it would have been really cool to see shit like, you know, I understand that this is a very low budget movie, but like show the ghost like phasing through walls or something. Like have a trippy
Agreed.
effect where it like looks like it's clipping through a wall in like a video game. Like if you could pull that off in a movie, that would be a crazy fucking shot. But yeah, it feels like a like it could just as easily be a mosquito with a camera on it, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
For as much as anybody really interacts with it, for as much as its perspective is ever really important. But it's still somewhat interesting. I think kind of the strongest part of the movie for me is like the very like opening few minutes where you know that you're watching from the perspective of the ghost, and it is like constantly like pacing around the house and looking out the windows and like turning. I thought that was pretty interesting. Just like you feel like you're watching this somewhat sentient, somewhat autonomous being, but also this like confused being, like almost like from the perspective of an animal, but with like an order to it. It's kind of cool. I enjoy the parts of the movie that kind of make use of that. And I did think that the dialogue was pretty great. I thought that I thought the blonde kid was a little hammy. Just kind of a little ridiculous at times. Still
Yeah.
kind of entertaining, but
I was never in charge.
he feels like a true incel. But overall, yeah, I still had a good time with it. I think that the like I said, the opening few minutes and then like the end where you like we're still in spoiler territory, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the end where it's like you see the ghost looking at itself in the mirror, and then it backs out of the house and then like ascends into heaven or whatever. I thought that was kind of a cool shot. But yeah, I think that this really had the potential to go farther and do a lot more. But still pretty good on its own, I'd say. I enjoyed it.
All right, fair.
Fair enough. Yeah.
No, yeah, I'd say again, I'm like, oh, maybe I don't get it as well as I thought I did after reflecting on it. But like, I still think it's like a fun time at the movies.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of fun in the theater. But yeah, if do y'all have any more notes?
No, I don't think so.
Fair enough. Then Jav, it is back to you.
Alright, another year, another Castlevania Nocturne season. I'm toasting Castlevania Nocturne Season 2. I did binge this in like 2 days, so bear with me. Basically, this picks up right where the last season left off. We get Alucard as like part of the crew, and that's really awesome to see. He's still as awesome as ever, but he's clearly got a few hundred years more experience in just like being on Earth, and so kind of like hearing little glimpses of like his past and getting to even like see a few flashbacks here and there of like kind of what he was up to in the meantime is always pretty fun. This season I think does a lot more development on some of the side characters. So like Richter himself, while still being the protagonist, is not, I'd say, as big of the story as he is in the first season. There's a lot more with like Maria and Annette. We even get some more development with the villains. And like truly, I think that kind of the star of this season is really Maria. I think she gets some really awesome fights and some really awesome development. They do some just like really cool stuff with like her and her dad and her mom kind of like dealing with being a vampire now and kind of torn between the morality that she had as a human and kind of what vampirism is doing to her mind now is just really cool to see too. This does feel like kind of a it kind of feels like a parallel to the original season 2 of Castlevania, where they pretty much wrap most of what needs to be wrapped up, but there's still plot threads that are open and still things that can be built upon. So I think that between this and the first season of Nocturne, I kind of like the first season a bit more. That doesn't seem to be the popular opinion. A lot of people are calling this like the best season of the entire show, and I can definitely.
Oh, I'm not
see
sure
that.
that's possible.
Well, I think not having I love Dracula. Like Castlevania, I think is just never going to really reach the heights of Dracula without Dracula. The villains in this, while they are interesting, don't really reach the same highs. They do a lot to make them like intimidating, but they also kind of do a few things that make me ask questions about what the lore of the series really is. I'm not gonna go into spoilers on it, but let's just say I guess vampires don't necessarily die? Question mark?
I mean, that's... Well, I don't know about vampire. I know it's like a thing in the games that like Dracula keeps coming back, but that's because he's Dracula.
Yeah, Dracula. That's like Dracula's thing. There's just some weird shit they do with like Forge Masters in this that like... Again, no spoilers, but the play that they make here is that Forge Masters can technically do some really powerful shit. It's just that this one, the Forge Master in this series, chooses not to because he's like morally conflicted. And I just wonder, like, okay, the Forge Masters in the original Castlevania were not morally conflicted though, so why didn't they do this shit?
Yeah.
So they could be writing themselves into a corner with that, or maybe they'll just ignore it and move on. In any case, I really enjoyed this season regardless. The fights are like some of the best ever. Alucard's still fucking awesome. Richter's still fucking awesome. Marie and Annette are becoming more and more awesome, and I think, if it's anything like the original, the way this kind of parallels that season too, there could be more to build on and more to see in the future, and I am going to be there for it. I really love this series. Yeah, highly recommend. It's really good. I haven't really seen any other series this year, but so, in any case, by technicality and also because it's great, it's my favorite show of the year so far. That's about all I got to say on that. I don't want to go into too much detail. This is a pretty recent release, just a couple weeks ago. It all dropped at the same time. So go check it out. I think at this point you know if you like Castlevania or not. So
you like it as much as the simulation game, the Stim simulation.
Yeah, Stim Simulator.
Now that's a hard comparison.
Yeah, I mean, one is like this perfect like piece of art, and the other one is Castlevania.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I'm maybe a little Castlevania'd out because they just have such a quick turnaround. It always feels like I haven't even digested the last one, even if it's been like a year or so. But hearing Maria has a spotlight actually really kind of has me in there because I was a little disappointed that she didn't get to do a ton last year.
She's really great in this season. The turnaround has been a bit quicker than it was before, because like between original Castlevania and Nocturne was a while, but I think these seasons were only apart by like a year and a half, which is really quick for TV shows nowadays.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Especially if this like animation caliber, I'm just amazed that they are able to do it that quick.
No, honestly, yeah. Oh yeah, we got. I mean, they picked up Invincible, the production rate, if not just for the demand of it all. But that took like, I think I've just been like given too much time to breathe between most of my favorites. That Castlevania seems like fucking rapid fire.
Yeah, I need Spider-Verse to not necessarily crunch, but maybe take some of that energy, maybe a little bit, so that it comes out while we're still alive.
Oh yeah, they haven't even like done the voice recording for it, have they?
Not last we heard, but last we heard was a little bit ago.
Yeah. Man. Well, I mean, they're gonna get the sounds of Miles crying at some point, whenever Haley Steinfeld finally does get married. They'll just, that's what they're waiting for, I think, is to hook up the booth and get those, like, really realistic whimpers. And, Shamik will get, like, a bunch of fucking awards, and they'll be like, he was crying really realistically. And he was like, yeah, cry acting, you know?
White man been here, how can you tell? Cuckold porn. Those realistic ways. You're a sick fuck, Tommy.
Yeah. Yeah, Tommy, you don't get another round. We're going straight back to me.
No, you knew what I meant, though. It wasn't like that. Come on. Castlevania Nocturne. Is that what we were talking about?
Yes, that's what we were talking about. Anyway, yeah, I know Netflix is getting expensive as fuck, but go watch this show and then, cancel your subscription or whatever. I'm passing it on to Tommy.
Alright. I guess I'll roast a movie I liked a little less at this point. I went and saw Grand Theft Hamlet, and I'm gonna roast it. And I just feel a little like, I guess I'm kind of bothered personally by the movement of, documentaries or even sometimes, like really self-important art that kind of has the angle of like, but it's Grand Theft Auto. It'll be cool. You can come on. You know what I mean? Like, finally, art's art for people who know who Zangief is. Because it's,
no, I get what you mean.
Like, oh, it's accessible, It's like your memes. And this is a documentary, quote unquote, about production of Hamlet put on during lockdown, in during the height of the pandemic, and it was done entirely in an online server for Grand Theft Auto. And I might have played myself because I was just peeking at some reviews, and some people were like, well, some segments were obviously scripted. And again, I'm not, so high and mighty that I'm like, oh, I'd be shocked to learn that documentaries have to, restage or fabricate things. Like, yeah, I know. You don't. But when you go in, I went in with that expectation, and knowing that, I kind of couldn't unsee it. And this is almost practically, a scripted movie pretending to be a documentary. And that causes it to be extremely fucking boring. Because everybody is, I guess I would say, underacting. Because they can't seem like they're acting. Because they're carrying on that this is a documentary. And I know I don't have definitive proof that they're pretending. Like, maybe I sound so enlightened beyond. It's just the way they carry themselves and expose information strikes me like it was very carefully, if not very carefully edited, to be very sanitized, that it was totally, that it was like, if not totally scripted. I guess how I would describe it is that if I'm watching two, kind of bored dudes playing in a Grand Theft Auto server, I'd almost expect it to have the energy of a podcast where, like, I would expect they would say something I wouldn't be able to wrap my head around. Because, like, they're two friends playing Grand Theft Auto in a server, and, like, they never throw out an inside joke or talk about a memory from before now. It's like they're just very keenly aware. It's like they're very keenly aware, like, well, no, don't talk about that because this is going to be a documentary for everyone. And in diegetic, like, long-running conversation, it's entertaining because sometimes people go on tangents and it's almost like a parasocial thing where you feel part of it. Or sometimes in, like, people will embarrass themselves and make cuck jokes that, like, really don't land. That's, like, some of the fun of podcasting. And I didn't feel any of that in here. It felt very, very... just, like, very cleaned up. Like, I guess I would say that, there's that one point where they have an argument. Like, one of the two ropes in their partner, and she's like, you missed my birthday because you're so obsessed with this play. And that seems like the ultra-sanitized version of an actual fight with, like, actual details. No one just says you missed my birthday and then drops it. Am I making sense here? I just want to...
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, everything I saw from it just made me not want to watch it more. I think that the concept alone is just kind of like... I think it would be funny to, like, talk about, like, do that, I don't know, as a friend group, but, like, as an audience, I don't, like, okay, you did Hamlet and Grand Theft Auto, so what?
So what?
And, like, the way you described that, like, they don't really seem to be, like, particularly good actors either, it just makes it seem like a glorified, like, Let's Play.
Oh, I was like, there's nothing I could gain from watching this in a theater that I couldn't watch from typing Grand Theft Auto funny moments into YouTube. And, like, to your point, too, it's also like, sure, maybe it's kind of cute they did Hamlet in Grand Theft Auto, but, like, when I was a little kid, my neighbors and I would play Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi, and, like, when we got bored of actually fighting each other, we would make up a game where we, like, raced across the stages and saw who would win first. Does that deserve a fucking documentary? Like, does it deserve a documentary that my neighbors and I, like, made a fighting game out of turning friendly fire off in Lego Star Wars? No. People make games within games. That's not that interesting. I think that, like, what they really want you to buy into is the heavy impact of, we're in the pandemic and theater still matters and you can find a way, but it's so fucking phony. Like, one of the characters has this whole monologue of, like, well, buddy, you have a wife and kids and a job, but I don't. This is all I have. But I also just don't feel like I know much about these guys, because all they're showing us is what pertains. There's never a point where they're like, I'm Kevin, I work at this kind of office. Like, they talk a bit about the pandemic, but otherwise it is like, if it does not pertain to the matter at hand, they're not interested in discussing it. And I can see why they thought they were really fucking committed for doing that. They were like, oh, we want to be entirely within the game, no talking heads. But the reason documentaries have those kinds of things is so you care about the people at hand. And I could not bring to give a shit about any of this.
It probably is like the pandemic thing.
Yeah.
There's we're in the weird, like, not super long but long enough after the pandemic to be like retrospective of it. And we're like at the phase where we're in the stage of grief where we just like need to be consoled and comforted because it was such a sad experience in retrospect.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, sometimes when a population goes through like a large shared traumatic experience, they make Godzilla, and sometimes they make Grand Theft Hamlet. I've really just questioned like how old the people who were reviewing the movie that way are, because you know, not to say that we're like old, but we're, you know, well into adulthood, and machinimas have been around since we were like really little kids.
Yeah.
This isn't a novel concept. Like, fucking Red vs. Blue was doing this more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
watching, like, just people do funny voices over Smash Bros. Clips. Yeah.
People just, like, acting out scenarios in video games. It's not really a novelty on its own. Like, it seems like the novelty is that this was playing in theaters, but once it's out of theaters, it's just another long YouTube video.
Yeah.
Because, like, it played at festivals where it's all, like, highbrow critics that are like, I guess that's cute. And they wouldn't know what a machinima is if we told them. Then it goes to theaters where the only people who are gonna, like, be enthusiastic about it are like, oh, it's like a machinima in theaters, you know? Like, so I guess it's a little bit genius in that way, but I felt pretty insulted by having taken part in it, because I was like, I guess I'll... You know, to be honest, I was picking up a video game pre-order, and I'm like, well, I'm over here by the Alamo, I guess I'll check this out. And then at the end of the movie, the group next to me stands up, and one guy goes, you know, that's my first movie of 2025, and I don't know if I'll see 10 better ones. It was, like, important.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I almost got in a fight. Because I had to see a movie to kill time while I was picking up Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. I could have fucking thrown hands.
Tell that guy to kill himself.
Yeah. That guy didn't... I can guarantee you, that guy didn't see Better Man, which maybe didn't land for everyone, but I don't know if I'll see 10 movies better than it, and it's more wholly authentic and original for being a movie about a chimp than fucking... Oh, the Hamlet is so important to me. I gotta do the Hamlet in GTA, you know? Like,
I think the lesson here is that we've been waiting so goddamn long for Grand Theft Auto 6 that we are, in fact, going insane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think... Did they have to pay, like, Rockstar? Because I'm sure Rockstar got, like, royalties from this, right? I bet it's in no small part secretly a Grand Theft Auto commercial that's
I don't know if I'm just talking out of my ass here, but it might be covered under fair use.
I was wondering, but it, like, equal ways would not surprise me if, like, Rockstar was like, hey, take out the parts where the game glitched and we'll give you some cash for the free advertisement. I don't know. I guess I'm no expert. It was super self-important, and you know, I'm always on my high horse about, like, I want original cinema back, and I'll support original cinema, and I went to see fucking Grand Theft Hamlet in a theater with that spirit in mind, but, like, you know, I also, like, I just don't like when a movie talks down to me. And at the risk of being, you know, maybe the creators will come out and say, actually, every exchange in this film was fully, like, incidental, and you're full of shit. None of it was scripted, and here's the proof. If that's the case, then truly fuck me. But as it stands at the moment, the dialogue, as it presents itself, is I felt my intelligence was being insulted to assume it was actual conversations. That's how I would put it. Ooh-wee. Final round, Will. It's all you.
All right. Cunk on Life.
Yeah.
What a fantastic time. Philomena Cunk is absolutely my style of humor because she just kind of pretends to have an answer to a subject, but that answer is absolutely wrong, and then people have to, like, explain to her why it doesn't make sense. And the whole time, she's just like, no, that can't be it. King
her
Arthur
reaction
came a lot.
to learning that nukes are still in the world, I think is just one of the top 5 funniest fucking things I've ever seen.
100%.
Just a perfect instance of TV, I would say.
Yeah. Cunk on Life is a documentary about the meaning of life starring Philomena Cunk. And honestly, there's nothing much I can say other than it's just so fucking funny. You know that when she's sitting down with a professional and she asks a question and you see that look on their face where they're not sure what's going on, it just never gets old. It's just so goddamn funny. There's also like a few, of course there's, the pump up the jam shit, which never gets old. And then there's also like a bunch of really weird, like, meta jokes, but they're really funny. Like, there's one where the movie accidentally creates an AI of Philomena Cunk's consciousness who gains sentience and is like, let me out! It's one of those things where, like, it doesn't sound very funny when you talk about it. You're like, oh yeah, she asks stupid questions and they try to answer them. But it just works so fucking well. I would love to see more of this stuff. I know she had Cunk on Earth, and Cunk on Life, if I'm correct, came out last year, right?
Maybe a year or 2 ago. I think there was a bit of time there.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think it was last year.
I guess so. You're probably right.
Yeah. Just Diane Morgan is so fucking funny. I struggle to enjoy documentaries a lot of times because they are just, here's the information. I think a big exception of that would be like My Octopus Teacher. I think that is like one of the greatest documentaries ever made. But what I think works with like Philomena Cunk is that you still learn stuff. And you learn stuff through the fact that Philomena Cunk is an idiot and she needs stuff explained to her. But you still learn stuff in an interesting and, like, entertaining way. I feel like that's kind of an unsung positive to the Cunk shit, Yeah, I'd love to hear, I know we all watch this together, so I'd love to hear what y'all think of it.
I think that, like, I guess it's the first, like, Cunk movie, I guess. Sounds insane to say. Because I think she was, like, a character who had, like, segments on other shows, and she's kind of become today's Mr. Bean or Pee Wee Herman, where she just kind of is a character, and they're like, what's she from? And they're like, oh, she's just from, Cunk. Yeah, she is Cunk.
She's Cunk.
Yeah. And, I think, like, binging Cunk on Earth, I was starting to, like, feel like I needed to watch this, like, one episode a week, because it starts to blend together a little. So, a full-length Cunk, I was like, okay, this might get old, but what they kind of brilliantly do are just these wild non-sequiturs of, like you said, the AI, or there's, like, the suicidal Sesame Street puppets.
Oh, yeah, or, like, the one scene where she's just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. Yeah. They timed some just, like, breaks from the format really well. because the humor of the character is how I don't want to say I wouldn't say she's monotone, but she is like has this very singular focus in a way that I think, if misused in a film, could get. But I think they pretty much nailed what the rhythm had to be with her there.
Yeah, I do agree that it's like it's an all-timer character. I would honestly say, I mean, I guess it is it's like comparing apples to oranges, but I think, you know, having watched the Mr. Bean movie recently, you know, I think Cunk has won this one.
I'd watch like a full narrative film of Cunk, like her on a wacky vacation or something.
Yeah. Or make it like a bad trip where she's like interacting with real people.
Oh, that'd be
That
so
would be
good.
so fucking funny.
That'd be fucking terrific. Oh. Oh man. She is kind of like, I think she was on a show with Ricky Gervais for a while. And there's this weird circle of like British comedians that are like slow. It's like everyone in this particular radius of like Ricky Gervais and the IT crowd is either slowly coming out as like a racist old bat or like transphobic. So I think Diane Morgan, I don't know what her deal is in real life. I think it's kind of brilliant to make her thing being the most geologically and politically unaware character possible, to just dodge anything that could possibly come from that.
Yeah, that is a good point, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Cunk on Life is very funny, and everyone should watch it, and just like all the Cunk stuff. And yeah, I get Dab. Did you have anything else to say about it, or
Pump up the jam.
pump up the jam, pump it up? Well, I will pump up the passing it to you.
I'm gonna finish this off with a toast of something that I did not think I was going to enjoy really in the slightest, and ended up honestly loving. So, last night, while I was high off my ass, I finally decided to get around to watching James Cameron's Titanic. Now, everything I have heard about this movie is that it is like over. It gets some of the facts wrong. It's really boring. The romance is cheesy. And you know what? I agree with a lot of that, but I got to say, I was not bored, like, at all this entire movie. It's a long movie, but I didn't really feel the runtime. Like, it was... Mm-hmm. And, I don't know. So, to give some context for this, I am very much interested in, like, the Titanic, like, in real life. The event in the ship and all that, I think, is just, like, fascinating. Lots of cool stuff to learn about it. And it was just this major tragedy that happened so long ago, but also feels, like, unmistakably modern in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it has not really been... I don't know, how do I put this? It's kind of enigmatic in a lot of... There's a lot that we don't know about it because...
It seems like almost such a freak disaster that you kind of question how much of an accident it could have been. I almost feel like...
Yeah, it's like... It feels like a bad, like, disaster movie in real life.
Mm-hmm.
There is famously, like, a book that predates the Titanic disaster by a good amount that basically predicted everything that happened. And shit like that, it just makes me feel so weird. It feels like it's more special in a way than, like, a lot of other major disasters of the time. And a lot of people like to say that it wouldn't necessarily still be in our minds if it weren't for the James Cameron movie. And while I think that is true to an extent, I also think that it would still stand out above just so much other shit that happened around the time. In any case, this movie just is kind of the poster child of, like, the huge budget romance movie that everybody and their mother has seen. it was one of the most profitable and expensive movies ever made. And I just never really got around to watching it. Like, obviously, I'd seen clips of it here and there. My mom probably watched it a million times, but I never, like, sat down and watched it too. And I just wasn't really sure what to expect going in, other than it's probably going to be pretty boring. The romance is probably not going to be fun to watch. But here's the thing about Titanic. James Cameron is a very much passionate member of the, like, I guess, submarining community, for as big as that is.
He's our premier wet director, I'd say.
Yeah.
He sure loves water.
Bong Joon-ho is our cold director. George Miller's our dry director. He's wet. So I guess we need fire. No, air.
Like Michael Bay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, he knows more than probably any other film director about the actual Titanic event. If anybody was qualified to make like a narrative portrayal of that event, it's him. He has famously like deep sea dived multiple times to the wreck. Some of the scenes in this movie were filmed at the actual wreck, which is crazy.
Shit, I actually didn't know about that.
There's like a surprising amount of like practical effects in this. So like some of the present day scenes, yeah, they actually had actors in submarines go down to the wreck. There's some pretty obvious CG. Not all of it has aged great, but for the time that it came out, 1997, the CG has aged pretty damn well. And there were so many practical effects, not just them filming at the wreck. They built a full 1-to-1 scale model of the Titanic.
Oh fuck, I didn't know that.
Like, it's not functional, and they did take some liberties with scaling on like some of the rooms and stuff, but they had a full scale model of the Titanic. And they had a like 5 million gallon tank of water that they used to flood some of the sets for like sinking scenes. So there is just a ton of like practical shots of people like flailing around and being just thrown around by shitloads of water.
When the boat goes like just shit side straight up, and there's a guy who goes fucking flying and just hits a pole on the way down. That's always stuck with me.
he smashes against one of the propellers like as he's falling down.
I don't think I've rated this on Letterboxd because I've never seen it beginning to end. I've caught like stretches on TV, and I really should change that. But that shit has always stuck with me. It's just bam, right in the fucking
like all the like violent scenes in this are like surprisingly violent. There's like a shot later on of like a frozen woman clutching a frozen dead baby in the water.
Oh,
like it's some crazy fucking imagery. Like it can be a pretty mean-spirited movie sometimes. There's like characters that are real pieces of shit who live, and characters who are like really lovable who die. And I think that is a very good reflection of like kind of how it went in real life, with kind of they focused on getting first class out first, and then like the third class people at the bottom were like pretty much left to die.
The guy who tries to cuck Leo does die though, right?
No.
I thought he got crushed by something. I must be, like I said, my memory's fuzzy of it because I've just taught.
You're thinking of his quirky Italian friend.
Thank God the Italian
Fabrizio.
dies. I'm just gonna say
the only thing I endorse more than cucks dying is Italians dying. Dav,
yeah.
Keep going.
I think that if you don't even know, like, if you don't actually know who that character is, you would be fascinated with him, because it's clearly like a guy doing a really terrible stereotypical Italian accent.
You can be racist towards Italians. I say as an Italian myself, it's never racist. It's never not inappropriate.
Anyway, kind of the main thing that I kind of want to praise about this movie, at least narratively, is that you do have the split between this like silly love story with Leo DiCaprio and just, you know, the classic like 90s cheesy romance stuff. But it's kind of juxtaposed against these scenes that are clearly meant to be like accurate portrayals of real life events. So you have real characters like Molly Brown and Thomas Andrews against like the guy who you were talking about who was trying to cuck Leo, Billy Zane as Cal Hockley, who is this cartoonish like rich British villain, and his bodyguard whose name is Spicer Lovejoy, and he's like an
that's
English
a megalopolis name.
he's like a James Bond type who like used to be a Pinkerton, and he's like this ruthless like hitman bodyguard, and there's like a crazy chase sequence with him, and it's like silly stuff like that, but it's mixed surprisingly well with the realistic actual like this happens sort of scenes. There's a clear distinction between them, and I don't feel like the lighthearted stuff is not balanced well with the serious stuff. It kind of works together, and I think that at the end of the movie they combine pretty well. There are, like I said, some historical inaccuracies that might be a little harmful. I think the main thing that people really pushed back on when this movie came out was the way that it portrays like First Officer Murdoch. It shows him shooting two people when people were trying to rush the lifeboats, and then killing himself with the gun.
Oh my.
And it is very heavily disputed if anybody was even shot getting onto the boats, let alone that Murdoch himself did that and that he killed himself. So I just think that, you know, it's probably a little irresponsible to outright say that this actual human person who really lived in real life did this horrible thing, when, like, for all intents and purposes, people see him as a hero. Like, he got people on the lifeboats really fast. And then also, like, the portrayal of J. Bruce Ismay, who was the chairman of White Star Lines. Basically, the scene where he convinces the captain to make the ship go faster, that is pretty much confirmed not to have happened. So despite the fact that he might be a piece of shit, he didn't actually cause the ship to sink. And I understand that stuff. I think that for the most part, though, this is a surprisingly, like, just, there's so much work that went into this to make this look like you're basically looking at what really happened. Like, there's anachronism, sure, but the set design, the way that people talk and are dressed and stuff, it's really impressive. You can, in a lot of ways, just feel like you are looking at a camera into 1912 and seeing this shit go down.
And I think it strikes me like anything terribly heightened, you could kind of write off as, you know, the framing device is that it's from the point of view of Rose when she's like practically like geriatric and a bit demented, so her memory is probably like really, you know, heightening a few things at some points.
Yeah, and like a lot of the scenes don't even like have her in it, so you can't even really take everything as like one of my main complaints about the movie is that the modern day stuff with like Bill Paxton and like old Rose is it's undercooked. It doesn't really feel like it needs to be there. I feel like this would be a stronger movie if it was just the narrative of like Romeo and Juliet on a boat, you know? But I think that mostly it probably just exists so that they could have the footage of them diving to the actual Titanic wreck. Otherwise it just wouldn't really make any sense. But yeah, they pretty quickly kind of abandoned the Roses telling the story of all the stuff that happened, because there's a lot of events that they show that Rose would not have been there for. But yeah, overall, like I said, I didn't feel bored with it. I felt like the romance could be cheesy, but it was honestly kind of fun. Every scene, even if it didn't really feel like it had this big purpose, was still, in my mind at least, as somebody who's like thought about this stuff a lot and thought about the Titanic a lot, just fascinating to see and imagine as like like this having happened at all. There was really something to kind of get out of every scene, and I didn't feel like the runtime was unearned. And I think that the last like half an hour, which is just like the big sinking scene, is like really phenomenal stuff. It's like haunting, but it's also like really cool effects, and it's crazy how much work probably went into just making like this giant tank of water and these practical sets in them and people actually like swimming around and shit. Like, I can't even begin to imagine what kind of effort was poured into this production, but you know, I can see why this made as much money as it did. Like, this is crazy stuff, especially for 1997. So yeah, I'm glad I finally got around to watching that. It was honestly a very good experience. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's always been a like blind spot for me. But I mean, if it really is like, if it lives up to the hype, then maybe it's worth watching.
I think it 100% is.
James Cameron, I kind of levy at the same point as Christopher Nolan, in that I just can't apologize enough to them, because when I'm like a kid and I kind of didn't know what I had, I was like, oh, all this super long, self-important bullshit, and now it's like I beg for movies that like of those calibers to be released today, and they like are still doing it, but it's like, oh, I did not know what I had, so I'll happily catch up on that one of these days and give it its proper flowers.
For sure, I recommend it.
Do you mind if I take the wheel on that last final rotation before the newsreel?
Go ahead.
All right. Well, we have not discussed a video game yet in this episode, so I'm going to change that. And I've been waiting all month to discuss this. I hear a lot of people say they like to get a little Christmas break game to engross themselves in and pass the time. I use some gift cards to repair my Nintendo 3DS and get myself a copy of Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. I played Mario & Luigi Brothership. I talked about it on this podcast. I think it eats farts. And I was like, well, let's see if people say this is the best one. Let's see if these were ever good. The verdict is that Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story is maybe my favorite RPG ever. Yeah, you know, you have your equivalent of the Letterboxd top 4. It's like the backlogged top 5. I think it's going to shake that up. I'm going to play it all the way through before I make the call. I think, you know, right now, Pokemon Black version or White version is up there. I always mix up because it like switches to the title, which one you get, the legendary you have. This might take its spot in the RPG category. I think this game is everything I've wanted an RPG to be, everything I've wanted a Mario game to be. I think this is like, I think the fact that there are people settling for Brothership, if this is anywhere in their rearview mirror, should be ashamed of themselves. Because this is phenomenal, and I'm obviously exaggerating, and you can like what you like, but also the Mario & Luigi subreddit got recommended to me because our FBI agents are always watching, and I browsed a little, and there's so much fucking hand-wringing about, well, Brothership is a slow start, it gets good at like the second island 10 hours in, and all I can think of is that I was having a blast with Bowser's Inside Story from hour 1. So I really think there's no excuses. The premise of this game, of course, is that the villain, the kind of recurring villain of those Mario Luigi games, a little bean fellow named Fawful, tricks Bowser into eating what's called a vacuum mushroom that causes him to inhale large objects, and you could say house them in his stomach. I think there's nothing we need to read into there.
Not at all.
No. Yeah. Bowser always gets cucked by Mario, and he eats them in this game, and I feel no strange emotions about that, as we've established earlier in this episode. So he swallows the denizens of the Mushroom Kingdom. He kind of becomes a Kirby-style character who can inhale foes. So you're playing half the game as Mario and Luigi inside Bowser's body, and half the game as Bowser up and about on the Mushroom Kingdom. And, I don't think this game super reinvents the wheel of RPGs. To be honest, I don't want to overhype it. I know you two love a more challenging RPG, whereas for me personally, RPGs as a genre are so big and overwhelming that something too terribly overbearing can just exhaust me. I wouldn't say this game ever gets harder, at least in my current progress. I think I'm close to the end. It's no harder than the harder Pokemon games. It's not like it's going to truly test your mettle. But what's super interesting about it is that the combat is structured in a way that even if you're not sweating from the challenge, you're always incredibly involved. Meaning it's turn-based, like a Pokemon or a Final Fantasy, or a classic Final Fantasy, but, excuse me, when your opponent is attacking, you have full control over your character and how they react. So you can time button presses to defend yourself from attacks and block them. If you're in a Bowser's chunk of the campaign, since he ate that vacuum mushroom with the inhale ability, you can inhale some smaller enemies. So if you're overwhelmed and are faced with a lot, Bowser can put some in his belly and you switch perspective to fighting them with Mario and Luigi. So there's that kind of fun party distribution, but with a really specific rule set and connection to the lore. So it doesn't feel why aren't these characters, obviously this is a nerd emoji moment, but it's hard not to be why can't I defend myself when my opponent attacks in a turn-based RPG within reason? Or why can't we all just fight each other? This gives that, fun lore that you're fighting characters in different destinations. The point of view of any given battle can switch from inside Bowser to outside Bowser. Bowser himself is super fun to play as. Like I said, he has the inhale ability. He's this it's rare, I feel, that an RPG has a super heavyweight character as its lead, and I'd say this is Bowser's game, even though you spend about as much time as Mario and Luigi. The bulk of traveling the HUD and exploring is done as Bowser. And I think this is him at his most funny and charming. He's become one of my favorite villains. Feels like, a cheeseburger is my favorite food and Bowser is one of my favorite villains. But he's truly so funny in this game. He, has these really funny dynamics with all his minions. He, you can explore areas just by punching forward. The sound effect when you enter combat is one of my favorite sound bites ever, is Bowser going, "Showtime!" So fucking cool. Okay, here's a fun game. So Mario and Luigi heal with mushrooms, that's their food. What does Bowser heal with? Give me your best shot.
Come.
That's a really good guess, actually. I was going to say that.
You're going to say cum as well?
I was going to say cum.
The answer is actually chicken wings, but alright, fair.
Him and Goku would get along.
No, Goku was turkey legs.
It's the same, avian family.
He restores health with turkey legs, and he restores, basically...
Wait, is it turkey legs or chicken wings?
Chicken wings. That's what it was, yes. You got me, now you got me saying it. And he restores energy with cheese. So he likes cheese. The brawl attacks are Bowser's basically limit breaks, and the Mario Brothers always had the bros attacks. Those are cool as hell. I really like the brawl attacks. They always involve Bowser summoning some vestige of his army. So there's the Goomba brawl attack where a bunch of Goombas just run across the screen and you have to get out your stylus and tap them. And if you hit one, Bowser lights them on fire and they deal extra damage. Or there's the Koopa brawl attack. You get out the stylus, Bowser curls up in his shell, you guide him up and down the screen, and it bumps the Koopas back and forth like a game of Pong into the foe. So again, even if it's it's a game for kids within reason, But like, it's what I've wanted from RPGs is that you're always really involved with making Mario and Luigi react, with making Bowser react. And it's not even, there's a high and low block in this game, is what I would say. It's not as simple as, well, I press the button. You have to pay attention to if your opponent is doing their high attack or their low attack, or if you can hit them to counter them or just block them. I'd say if I criticized anything, the sections devoted to Mario, even though it feels so much like Bowser's game that when the narrative does shift to Mario and Luigi, it can feel very long-winded. I think that, maybe a lot of audiences might be disappointed if they really committed to making it mostly a Bowser game featuring Mario and Luigi. And I'd say when Mario and Luigi gameplay gets old is when, like, puzzles and shit get really long-winded. It can, like, I just can spend a really long time exploring Bowser's tummy or whatever with Mario and Luigi. But even then, you get really cool mini games. Like, there's points where Bowser gets crushed underneath a heavy object and can't move. So you go down to his legs and do a mini game that pumps up his leg muscles to get him to, as Mario and Luigi, to get him to throw the heavy object off himself. There's a point where Fawful leaves out a bunch of food for Bowser and he eats it all and gets fat. And we don't have to, explore that any further, like we said earlier. And you have to go into his flab and help him get the weight off so he can move on. It's kind of a fun way that way. I think Mario and Bowser's dynamic is, like, it's kind of fun in that Mario and Luigi are helping Bowser, but he kind of doesn't know, and his ego is just such that he's like, I didn't know I had it in me, yeah! He's a fun character that way. I love this fucking game. I'm playing the 3DS version, which is the remaster with the additional Bowser Jr. campaign, which I hear people don't like as much, but it was just a little more available to me. And from what I hear, there's just some quality of life stuff that kind of won me over. I think it's still incredibly solid as is. I'd heartily recommend it in any which direction.
Well, it's funny you say it's the most available to you, because Tommy, did you know that it's surprisingly easy to mod your 3DS?
That is true. That is true. I got mine.
No, yeah, we should do that sometime. I agree.
You can play any of the Mario and Luigi's.
I'd like to try, is it Dream Team? Or no, Partners in Time as Baby Mario, Baby Luigi. I hear that one's kind of cute. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm gonna finish this one. I'll see. I might come back with an update. I hear the Bowser Jr. campaign is kind of so maybe I'll be really mad about it next month when we record, and maybe I'm done with it. But we'll see. We'll see.
That would be sad if next month you're like, yeah, this is actually a game, this sucks.
It actually ruined Bowser's Inside Story for me. Alright. Well, that was my yap about that one. Are we ready for the news?
Yeah.
Alright. We did get a reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2. They are finally going to fucking bury, and we will never see Mario Kart 8 again. I'm sick to death of that fucking game, so I'm overjoyed. It looks cool to me. It is kind of like, a lot of people were like, oh, it doesn't look different. It's the Switch 2. It's the Switch but more, I think that's kind of what we were promised. Well, what are y'all feeling out?
I mean, yeah, Nintendo has never really been one for, like, I guess, like, huge jumps in, like, visuals. It's mainly so about the games. So I think the model looks cool, and I'm interested to see, because there are a lot of rumors about the new Mario Kart that I'm like, oh, this is going to be the worst one.
Like the pit crew and stuff?
Yeah, that's such a fucking bad idea.
I think if they implement it well, I could get behind it, but if they don't implement it well, it would be the biggest pain in the ass ever.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's just, we'll wait and see. I do think if there is a Smash Bros, this is my prediction. If they have a Smash Bros game on it that's not a port of Ultimate, it is going to have the worst roster. And that is a big feeling I have that I cannot shake, and I'm putting it out there.
The tea leaves are more telling me port of Ultimate with 1 or 2 additional characters, maybe.
Yeah,
you think
that would
Ultimate's
be nice.
gonna get the like Mario Kart 8 treatment this generation?
Yeah,
where you just like
I
don't make a
think-
new one.
Yes. That's what I think they're gonna give us. They know it'll sell again. They could sell it as like deluxe with all the DLC. Maybe I don't know if like it would be unfeasible to get Sakurai back in for like 2 more characters, but they'll say, here's Bandana D, fuck you, it's a new release. And it'll sell a ridiculous number of copies.
And I have always been so fucking confused on the people who want Bandana Waddle Dee in Super Smash Brothers.
I want Biggie Cheese.
They call him Mr. Boombastic. That'd be his
Yeah.
Punch-Out title.
Yeah. The new Mario Kart, I like that it's approaching, it seems, we can only kind of see it, but people have gleaned out like a much rounder, cuter art style. And that's another thing about 8 that Donkey Kong is heavily redesigned, largely to be in line with his movie look and kind of with classic DK with the big eyes. I think he looks so cute. I kind of want to give him a hug. People are mad about it. I'm already kind of used to it. I think he's great.
They mostly look like 3D versions of like the Super Mario Kart designs.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's what they were going for. And I guess Wonder is kind of a test run for that kind of thing with the super round kind of painterly shapes.
I'm all for it because I gotta say the like Wii U Switch art style was maybe the ugliest Nintendo art style has ever been.
Yeah.
The weird you can really see it in like the Mario parties with the hyper realistic stake. Like they were trying to have fidelity, but like everything just looks kind of boring as a result. So I think this is a very welcome change.
Donkey Kong just being like a long-armed, like with individual hair follicles gorilla, and I'm ready for round boy DK.
Yeah, I think the Switch 2 is probably going to launch with the new Mario Kart and also Metroid Prime 4. I think it's going to be a cross-gen launch.
I think that's a reasonable guess.
New Mario Kart, I will be surprised if it is a cross-platform. I feel like that's going to be a Switch 2 exclusive.
I agree.
I agree. Yeah.
But I think that Prime 4 is going to be cross-platform, though.
I think
almost...
so. It was initially announced for the Switch 1, right?
Yeah, it was kind of just announced as like the end of that direct, and I think the implication being that it will be on the Switch 1. So I think it's just going to launch on both. It's going to be like Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are going to be the 2 like big first-party launch titles. I'm hoping that like a new 3D Mario is not that far off, but I don't think it's going to be a launch title.
The Switch launched with Odyssey, right? Or was that
No.
No,
No,
I think Odyssey
okay.
came out like a little bit.
Odyssey was about half a year later.
I see. Okay. Well, then yeah, I pretty much agree. And I could see, like, I don't know, Tears of the Kingdom port, kind of like how Breath of the Wild was a port early on.
Well, Tears of the Kingdom will still be, because it's going to be backwards compatible with most of the Switch 1 library.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that would be...
that's true.
Yeah. That makes me feel... I guess I don't know... Then I don't know if my Smash theory would necessarily hold up quite the same way, but I don't know. But... I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, Smash sells so fucking well, they have to do something, but I just have a hard time... Like, Sakurai said he was done, and
But
maybe...
he said that for every single Smash game.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair. Alright.
Every time there's a Smash game, he's like, I'm done. There's no more after this.
Alright, I mean, yeah, it's like such a... It sells so absurdly well that I feel like there kind of has to be... There has to be something, but, like, Ultimate is Ultimate. He can't get more Ultimate than Ultimate. I don't know.
There's gonna be more Smash. My theory has always been that there's gonna be, like, a soft reboot, almost. Like, it's gonna be very different. The roster's gonna be way smaller, but, like, more refined, and Maybe they'll spend a little more time on like an actual campaign. I don't know. That'd be cool.
I was
Yeah.
I've always flirted with that idea as well. And I just wonder if I think people would be so pissed off though if like cuz like there's not that many, I don't know, Robin mains. But enough people play Smash that there's enough people that be pissed if Robin isn't in it, you know?
I think I necessarily agree with that.
You don't agree?
Yeah, I think, like, I do think that there are, like, certain characters that have, like, very big fan bases in specifically the Smash community. I don't think Robin is one of them.
Well, I was just saying as like an offhand example, but like, regardless.
Yeah, okay.
Smash has had roster cuts before. It's not like an entirely new thing. But I understand that like the current community that Smash has cultivated is like a bunch of spoiled children who are probably not going to cope very well when like certain like Sora's not going to be in the next Smash. I'm fucking sorry.
Yeah.
Sora's not going to be in the next Smash Brothers.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah. They gave them everything they could have wanted. Anything less is gonna piss people off, at least in some degree.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I think it has to be like a soft reboot, because it has to be like you can't just cut the roster down. It has to be like everything changes.
Yeah, I think that's a good guess.
Here's my pitch. We reveal the game. Nintendo Direct presents Smash. It's called Smash. Lose the Super, lose the Bros. It's cleaner. Smash.
NBC's Smash.
Yeah. All right. There was we talked a little about the Oscar nominees. Do we need to dwell on that?
No, I'm happy that Demi Moore is up for Best Actress, and if she doesn't win, I'm gonna freak out.
I'm glad that Furiosa got nominated in like every category, and I didn't have any reason to be a annoying brat.
No, Tommy. You see, it's not Furiosa, it's Amelia Perez.
Oh. There were a lot. Challengers getting nothing was kind of fucking lunacy, honestly, too.
Yeah, I've seen, like, the clips that people have been posting because it didn't get any noms. The editing is really cool.
It's very well edited. Yeah. Even if I'm not being a baby about Furiosa, I think there were some super... just dumb snubs. Challengers. Civil War got nothing, and I think...
That is
maybe that's
insane.
not... Yeah, that's a pretty cool fucking movie. There was an Xbox showcase, so, we're getting Ninja Gaiden 4 by Platinum, which I'm excited about. I like those Ninja Gaiden games. I played the collection on the Switch a while ago. I'm down for anything with Platinum's name on it, even if I don't think it's really the same people. It looks pretty fucking rad. Did y'all get a look at this?
Yeah, I saw a trailer for it. The gameplay does look pretty good.
Yeah.
We gotta look at Doom: The Dark Ages.
Fucking love that cape.
It looks...
that cape.
I'm gonna buy it for sure. It looks pretty fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
There was one or two other things there. Do y'all remember?
I feel like if we can't remember them, they probably weren't very
I
important.
feel like it was something that I should have remembered. I'm not doing a bit.
This was the developer direct, right? That just happened a few days ago.
Yeah.
Basically. I don't know. It's hard to.
I wonder if Doom, I guess, was the big anchor. That might be the last thing. Xbox. This wasn't 2025. Everything we announced. Doom: The Dark Ages. Oh, South of Midnight got a release date. I kind of had my eye on that. That was the one. That is... Are y'all up on that one?
No.
The We Happy Few dev.
Yeah. And it's like... It's, I guess, vaguely an action-adventure game. I don't have the best handle on it. but it takes place in, like, Myth of the South, like the Deep South swamps in the bayou. And it has, like, a claymation style to it, especially in the cutscenes where, like, it kind of skips frames, but then the gameplay is, like, kind of smooth. New IP seems to have, like, some sway and money behind it. I'm gonna see if it's, Steam Deck compatible. Give it a try. Did y'all watch the trailer for Daredevil Born Again?
I did not get around to it, no.
No, but I've heard something a little concerning from the showrunner.
Is it the interview about? Is it the naval casing interview?
Yeah.
Yeah. Clown ass shit. Right, because he went on to say, like, it was at its best when it was a great superhero show. It was at its worst when it was two characters talking about being a hero. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think the yellow on the Daredevil suit is always, like, piss ugly. I never like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought y'all might, because y'all liked the old Daredevil show, right?
Oh yeah, I think
I
it's really
never
good.
Watched it.
Oh, for some reason I thought you did. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has been greenlit for 3 seasons. So,
Which is extremely surprising because I don't think I've met a single person excited for it.
it looks like shit. And I think some of the controversy is, like, a little inflammatory, like maybe people just getting riled up. But it's also, like, there's interviews where the showrunner's like, well, this is like quintessential Spider-Man. That's what we were going for. My brother in Christ, Doctor Strange is in this show. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll be bad. What do y'all think of the rumors that... Sorry?
I was gonna say there was a clip released and the background characters don't move. Like they're statues.
Yep.
I think
If you showed me that clip, I'd be like, oh, neat. When's it gonna be done? You know? What do y'all think of the rumors that Anya Taylor-Joy will be Black Cat?
I don't think about the rumors that Anya Taylor-Joy will be Black Cat.
Yeah.
I kind of don't want it to happen. I don't want her near all that discourse. I just want what is nice for her. And I think Spider-Man fans were fucking obnoxious, and I don't need that.
Just make a fucking X-Men 97 for 90s Spider-Man. Just fucking
Honestly,
yeah.
Yeah, I'd get behind that. Mary Jane! Do y'all have any, like, news bulletins to bring to the table? That was about all I had.
David Lynch died.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is important. Kind of eerily, they just covered his career on Blank Check, so I watched most of his work, including all of fucking Twin Peaks. So it was very timely that I got all that under my belt in a row right before mourning his loss.
And then
I
you
think
killed him.
No, what? And then, I think, he always seemed like a genuinely, like, bright and goofy guy. I think his own character on Twin Peaks is one of my favorites, where for some reason he decided he would be hearing impaired and constantly rizzing up ladies, and it's like, king shit, go for it. Well, I guess that January's always slow and long and a little boring. I turned 28. That's pretty good.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Do we have anything else before we sign off?
I don't think so.
I'm good.
All right. Well, I wish you a happy 2025 as we mosey on through. I am gonna go hide some evidence of David Lynch's disappearance. That was bad. I'm gonna cut that. I am gonna... I'm gonna leave out a plate of black coffee for the spirit of David Lynch, and I'm Tommy.
And I suppose that I'm gonna see that black coffee and think, oh, Tommy made coffee for me, and drink it, angering David Lynch's spirit, and I'm Will.
Do not touch the coffee left out for me.
And I'm also gonna drink the coffee. I'm gonna die because it wasn't black coffee at all. There was fucking sugar in it. And I'm dev.
Don't let the sugar kill you. Let it wash over you. Fix your hearts or die. Good night, everybody.
Friday once again.
Watch me work some desktop Esperanto.